Welcome to the Huskers podcast. Oh, yeah.
What is up, Husker Nation? It is Monday, November 25th. It is a victory Monday. A victory Monday is something that we have not had in almost over, I think it's like 6 weeks now or whatever it is, like 43 days. But we're doing it. We beat Wisconsin 44-25. I'm with my brother, Andrew. I'm David. This is my brother, Andrew. Andrew, how are we doing tonight after a 44-25 victory? First time in 10 years that we beat Wisconsin. How are we feeling?
I mean, like never better. It's almost like the rest of the season it doesn't even exist anymore. Like I can ignore so much now and I can just focus on the Dana Holgorsen era. I've moved on. That's it. That's all I needed. I needed one win to just sink my teeth into. Ideally a second win coming very soon. But it starts with this one. And 44, seeing a 44 on the scoreboard, like every time on the ticker watching football the rest of the day, the ticker scrolling across the bottom and I saw Nebraska 44, I was just like filled with pride. I was like, yep, that's my team.
So good. 44 is back. Huskers are back on top. I mean, my threshold for getting entertained in the offseason is so low. Like I literally was just looking for one like Trey Palmer-esque 75-yard touchdown pass, and I would just be good for 9 months. And we oddly hadn't had that. And now we have a full 4-quarter game that we haven't had all season.
Our first 4-quarter game.
First 4-quarter game of the season. And yeah, the boys are buzzing. We got a lot to get into today. We're going to talk full Wisconsin breakdown, full breakdown of the game itself. We're going to talk Iowa because it is Iowa week. And this is our last game of the year, which is crazy. But we also got to start talking about bowling, which is unbelievable because we have not talked about that in the history of this podcast. I just saw that it's Jordan Westerkamp's senior year was the last time we went bowling, which is really terrible because he has like 3 kids now. So that's like, okay, that was a while ago. That was a while ago. All right, let's kick this thing off. This podcast is brought to you by Pipeline Jerky, pipeline-jerky.com. You guys got to check it out, especially now that it's Christmas time. This makes a great stocking stuffer, pipeline-jerky.com. We've got partnership with Omaha Steaks. We've got some products in there. We've got the gift boxes. We've got some gift baskets that are full of Pipeline Jerky t-shirts and hats, all sorts of good stuff at pipeline-jerky.com. A royalty of every bag goes to the offensive line. The offensive line was balling on Saturday. They were opening big-time holes. The running game was on fire. A lot of it is due to you guys buying Pipeline Jerky. So check out pipeline-jerky.com. Keep buying it. Get it going for the Huskers. And then I actually have the first comment popping up here from Jet, who says, when will you guys have the Tom Osborne hat back in stock? It is back in stock. It is live. We are going. Go to the HuskGuysStore.com, Jet.
We had to re-up.
HuskGuysStore.com. Just had to buy more. We sold out yesterday. We're probably going to sell it again today, but we've got some awesome gift boxes coming your way. We've got an Ultimate Husker Dad Cave Crate. We got a Throwback Time Machine gift box. We've got a Herbie Husker Fanatic box. We got Golfers gift boxes. So if you know anybody in your life that is looking for an awesome gift box that is full of Husker gear,
you should know somebody.
Jet's ordering right now. Love it. Jet, you're my guy. HuskGuysStore.com. We're setting out to let's think of different fun and creative ways to create fun, creative gift boxes for Huskers fans, golfers, dads, kids, sons, brothers, daughters, wives, whatever it might be. We created a gift box for you. We're pretty excited about these. So go to HuskGuysStore.com. We got some Danamania stuff. We got some Huskers hats. We got some all kinds of good stuff on there. So check those out. We're excited about these gift boxes. They're shipping out soon. Black Friday sale is coming up on Friday. Cyber Monday sale coming up on Monday. But check them out. You guys will be the first ones to check them out. And our first segment, too, is going to be brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Black shirts gift boxes would be amazing. Kelly Sterling. Okay. We need a black shirt gift box. Okay. Got it.
Done. Let's do it.
Ray. Done. Underdog Fantasy.
Ray on it.
Guys, check out the Underdog Fantasy app. We're having a great time with it. We're about to talk about some of these stats here in a second. But with promo code HuskGuys, you get a 50% deposit match up to $1,000. So with Underdog, we are going on the higher and lower, betting on the under and over of Dylan Rayl's stat line, Dowdell's stat line, how many touchdowns, how many yards, how many rushing yards, punting yards, total field goals, all sorts of good stuff on Underdog Fantasy with promo code HuskGuys. You guys put $1,000 in, you'll get a free $500. You put Now, what is it? $2,000 in, you get $1,000 back. Put $100 in, you get $50 back. Promo code Huskers. Check it out. And let's kick this thing off. So I definitely want to talk. I mean, we'll get into Underdog in a second, but even at the highest level, let's talk vibes, because I want to talk vibes for a sec.
Okay.
The game itself. How first snap all the way through to the end, you were edge of your seat, excited, nervous. I thought we had in the bag, highly stressed. Where were you on the range scale?
Okay, so it felt sketchy when we went down and scored. Or that part was awesome. I mean, I was like, this is the best. Like, the first drive of the game was the best that our offense had looked pretty much all year. I mean, you had a 6-play drive opening it up, and we just creased them. I mean, everything was working, and that was awesome. I was like, okay, this is a great way to set the tone. Black shirts come out and they match us. I was feeling a little bit sketchy. I was like, all right, are we in for a Big 12 style shootout right now, or what is about to happen? Because I was not ready for this game to have more than 20 total points. But here we are sitting at 14 through a couple drives. So after that, scared. As the rest of the first half went on, toward the end of the first half, once we had those momentum shifting plays, I felt for the first time, this is our game. Like, Wisconsin was screwing up. They were fumbling on a simple dive to end the first half was so un-Wisconsin like. Getting flags that they don't typically get. I felt much better that we were up not only 2 scores, but that Wisconsin was just like, they took themselves out of the game. And then our offense just kept the foot on the gas. And so as it went on, I felt more and more and more confident, but that probably started towards the end of the first half, which I haven't felt that way in a bit.
Yeah. It was, the beginning was, like you said, it's like we go touchdown, they go touchdown, like, oh gosh, what's going on? Then we go 3-and-out punt, which is a problem. So because we went 3-and-out punt, remember like how we ran the ball on the first drive, and then that second drive we went 3-and-out, 3 straight passes with a false start. Then they punt, give it to us, and we fumble right away. That fumble for me was like, oh my gosh, like I cannot believe this. But that drive, then they missed the field goal. So following the missed field goals, when everything's sort of like, okay, missed field goal for them, they're starting to, like, wow, they couldn't capitalize on. They started that drive on like the 20, 15.
Oh yeah,
like
that's true.
They didn't score, so they missed that field goal. We go touchdown, and they miss another field goal, and so like they missed 2 field goals in the first half. But then, the biggest change in that first half is they do the fumble, we kick the field goal.
Crazy to see them miss 2 field goals in the first half. Both of them, they would have been in the lead, and that would have been a completely different game.
Totally. Well,
like, so they could have gone 14-13, and then if they made their second one, it would have been 16-14 Wisconsin.
16-14 at halftime, and we are highly stressed. Stress level is midnight.
We are
DEFCON, like full emergency, like everything's broken.
Yes.
I think that's I was like coming into half, even at 21-10, I was kind of nervous that I was like, we need like a little bit more cushion here. Just because USC, we were tied at halftime, like we were close at halftime. UCLA, it's like our second halves have historically been so bad that it's like we need a little more cushion. And then I could not believe it. I was literally like walking up to get a snack because I thought the half was over. And I looked back, I was like, they fumbled. All they had to do is take his knee, and they fumbled. But I will say, so then we're up. Second half, we're dominating. We're up 24, and I was blown away. I was still like very stressed because I think we're just broken as Husker fans. That like the stress level of a 24-point lead for me was very stressed. I was like, "What are we? Could we screw up a 24-point lead?" Only because that like big touchdown pass they threw was very stressful. It's like, oh, they're just gonna effortlessly like throw an absolute bomb, and 58-yard touchdown pass from Vinny Anthony by Braden Locke. That was with 8:30 left in the fourth. I was like, wait, are they gonna really like complete a 24-point comeback? This is crazy.
Just air it out. Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, but all of the demons were still present at that point. They've been a struggle. The second half, finishing out games, all of that has been a struggle. So the defense, I mean, calling a spade, the defense did not play well. We allowed Braden Locke. He had his second highest passing total of the year against us, and he's played started like 8 games now. He went 20 for 30, and he is he's like a 55.7% passer, and he went 67% against us. So he was accurate. He was moving the ball. He passed for almost 300 yards. Like, that was a pretty good game by him. And he was picking our secondary apart. That part of things absolutely made me very concerned. But we held their running game fairly in check, like to less than 120 yards, I think, total. And that had to give you like a little bit more confidence that like at some point he was going to go, kind of go off the rails or start getting inaccurate, or we were going to start holding them to small enough gains and stuff. And we did. Like,
yeah.
And then in the second half, the thing that was probably the most impressive of the entire game is, did they stop us on any drives? I think we had
5 straight.
Five straight scoring drives is something that's what we'd been missing all year. And thank you for this comment from Taylor Harden. Second halves have been a struggle with Sat. Dana's aggressiveness was key into keeping Wisconsin at bay. That was the difference.
Yeah.
Like, that to me was it. Like, at some point, Wisconsin was like, we cannot keep up with them. Passing had not been their strength really with Braden Locke as a 55% passer. We were able to keep them at bay enough, and then we just poured it on.
Yeah, and I was shocked, and I think that's where like Holgerson's getting so much credit, as he should, and where I was so impressed with him was the foot on the gas component of the second half. Nebraska just broke in my brain. I can't even watch football in a normal way. Like, I normally am like, let's be aggressive. And now I'm like, please, just for the love of God, win a game so I can win a game. But he was definitely like in that second half. I mean, we were up 24. We were up, they scored that touchdown to make it up 17. Yeah. And he was foot on the gas. We were on a high tempo offense.
Yeah,
he was pushing the ball down the field. He's pushing the ball down the field. He's got Rayola he's throwing fade routes. He's throwing deep balls. He's throwing crossing patterns. Like, we were not trying to run the ball out and control it. It was like, I want to go score. And that to me was, we haven't seen that in Lincoln in forever, of like a second half aggression, going for the kill, going for the kill shot. And then I think what ends up happening too, and that's where, some of this we'll get to at the end, but the Wisconsin was making so many mistakes. Some of that's caused by aggression, right? Of like, that final drive where we scored a touchdown on the 10-play, 75-yard drive, they had 3 different penalties. They had a roughing the passer, they had a personal foul penalty, and they had a face mask penalty. All 3 of those are kind of like, a little bit more on the aggressive side of like, if you're continuing to push and you're making them frustrated, those come. They're very un-Wisconsin-like, but, I'll take them. It's like Wisconsin was finally making the mistakes that we normally make.
God, it was just so glorious. I mean, like, it felt like all of these demons were just getting exorcised from my body and from the whole program. Like, it gave me so much more hope going into this week too. I mean, you lose that game and you're banking on beating Iowa, one of the better defenses we'll see all year. Like,
I think Wisconsin is, historically, if you look at they just held the best team in the country to 13 points or 16 points or whatever it was last week. Like, they've
had some ups and downs. It's strange. Like, on the one hand, they've also been beaten down by a couple other opponents.
Yeah, and Iowa beat them 42-10. But
and they also had like a bottom 3 rushing defense going into the game, which is unusual. But they had a top 3 passing defense. That's why like Rayola passing for almost 300 yards on the 3rd ranked passing defense in the Big Ten was. I was not expecting that. You were not expecting that, and probably most of Husker Nation was not expecting that. And so, like, what struck me was the balance and then the aggression. And like in the last 5 minutes, we've heard Rule say time and time again, like in his pressers, he's like, he wants to control the clock in the 4th quarter. He wants to basically grind it and run things out. And like, I subscribe to that mentality. And then you see us throwing fade routes with 5 minutes left, and you're like, this is not Rule calling these plays. This is not the mentality that we've taken. And it's a total like go for the throat or nothing mentality. And I don't know if that's going to bite us at some point.
Yeah.
But I can say that like I appreciated it. You can see a stark difference in how we were even approaching the second half, and the fact that we put up 20 in the second half was
crazy.
Wisconsin was never going to come back from that.
Here's a wild thing to jump in on Holgorsen, that the whole thing is fascinating and so different, and it's so crazy. Like, we just brought in a offensive coordinator who's a former head coach with 3 games to go and just handed him the keys. And he said in the last press conference, I don't know if this is true to be in the new press conference, but he's like, I don't even know the players' names. He doesn't know their names. He just calls them by numbers.
Okay. What's funny about that I have to comment on is that in the same sentence where he was like, these perimeter blockers or these receivers are not blocking worth a crap. Yeah, he starts going like, yeah, and their names are 17, 4, 29. We got some big bodies out there, and he just starts saying numbers, and you're like, it sounds like you're playing Powerball or something right now.
But think about how crazy that is in this modern, like, and how almost perfect it is in the modern day, like, game of football. He doesn't know. He said he doesn't know what year they are. He doesn't really know their names. He doesn't know their NIL package. He doesn't know any of that, right? And he doesn't need to know. Yeah. He's literally just like, I'm just looking for football players. And
that's true.
That's crazy because, like, I mean, end result is like Fedoni didn't play, right? And you're like, shoot, well, like, and he got pulled. He got pulled right after the he had false start. It's like, all right, you're done. And Borkacher went in and had a career game. And also we put up 44 points. And so you're kind of like, and then, Emmett Johnson has a career game too. So it's almost like, it's like a guy flies in and is like, hey, show me some football players. And they're like, oh, hey, here's this running back that, like, is super shifty and was also the best player in Minnesota high school history. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. Why does he get 4 carries a game?
Yeah. What's he been up to?
Shouldn't he have 15? Like, what's his name? Doesn't matter. Just get him the ball. It's like, who's the little shifty kid? That's Ja'Cory Barney, sir. Why does he not have 12 catches? What are we doing with him? It's like he's asking the questions we all ask.
Yeah, 100%. They had mentioned that on like the Husker Online dip in the gang and whatever, and they were like, imagine a new boss comes into work and all of a sudden he's just barking orders, and you're like, well, like, you're gonna button up, you're gonna tuck your shirt in a little bit, like it's a new voice, it's a new boss, it's a new commands. You might even be hearing the same thing, and it might be even some of the same plays you've been running all year, but you might do them a little bit different if you hear it from a different voice. And I agree with that.
It's like, I don't know how do you keep that though, because that's what's like. I feel like so many coaches now have to protect, like, the transfer portal. They got to protect NIL. Like, it's like, I promised him he'd get 8 catches a game and all this stuff. And he's just like, I don't care. I don't know about any of those things. I'm just trying to win a game. And you put up 44 points. It's hard to argue with. It's just like, I mean, but how do you then go out and recruit next year and be like, yeah, this guy's never going to learn your name.
You just have to subscribe to this guy stinks.
This guy's never going to learn your name.
Honestly, go ahead and leave. It's fine. But, no, I mean, you just have to subscribe to that best man wins mentality, I guess. Like, and because if he comes in and he's just like, he's the best, he's the best, he's the best, he's who I want, then it's like, you're out of luck. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Just be better.
Yeah.
And then the rest of them have to develop. The rest of them have to develop and say, I want to be Emmett. I want to be him. And I want to be like, and follow in their footsteps. And you just have to go with that. So that was reassuring. I mean, the whole game was like, it was a little discouraging on the defensive side, but then you bring in the offensive performance and stuff, and you can let that storyline dominate for a week. Like we can forget a little bit on the defense because the offense held it down. Like, it has clearly been the problem of the team. Special teams feels like it's trending the right direction, at least. Some of it, it's been the offense that's been a problem. So you see this and you hope that you can rely off of it. The final thing that I would say, just overall vibes, is I think a lot of these plays that were being called were much more accurate situationally, and the players were just executing things that they had done before, but like it was clearly simplified. Like the playbook looked like it was clearly simplified to me. And Raiola, as a result, like, he gets in a groove early and he never got out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't believe how comfortable he looked, but then also Emmett Johnson was striking to me of like, he hasn't made like shifty moves like that all season. And I don't know what that is. You know, like Raiola looked comfortable. Emmett Johnson looked comfortable. Banks looked comfortable. All these guys like seem more comfortable in offense. It might have been simplified, but like Emmett Johnson was striking in a sense that like it's almost like was he being coached to just run into people, and now all of a sudden he gets the ball in space. And he was making spin moves. He was doing like outside like we literally have not had a running back make a guy miss. You know,
it
the whole
seems
time.
It seems like the entire year.
He was outstanding. He was outstanding.
The execution is what stood out more to me because, like, while I want to say that everything is Satterfield's fault, like it's the same players, it's the same playmakers, and it's largely the same playbook. But I think situationally, it was a better called game. We get our playmakers in space a lot more. We've identified maybe different playmakers that can get the job done. And then things like our perimeter blocking, which he called out as being not worth a crap, is now worth a crap. So, like,
well, there's a bunch of clips going around of Banks. Like, Banks is like mauling people on the outside now. I'm like, what happened? Man,
yeah, he rode someone completely into the end zone on one of Dallas.
It gives you a little like, man, because they had talked to Holgerson, in December, and he just wasn't ready for it. But like, gosh, if he like had been ready, like, I mean, legitimately, we're 9-3. Like, I mean, it's like you're an OC away.
I don't even want to think about that. Like, it just makes me sad to think about.
Yeah, he's been killing it. All right, well, let's talk about some of these personnel. Let's talk about how things turned out.
This was our bet last week.
Underdog Fantasy, use promo code HuskGuys. You get 50% off your first deposit. How did we do?
Okay, so we went 5 for 8, which is good.
Did you only have our winners?
Yes. I don't like to dwell on the negatives. There's no reason. There's the negatives in there.
The misses were big misses. Big misses.
There's nothing in that for me. But no, I mean, this is actually a fairly good recap of the game overall to go kind of point by point. So other bright spots of the game, John Hull, unbelievable. Guy is Mr. Automatic. He doesn't miss. He literally hasn't missed in his last 3 games. And like for him to come out and not miss after Nebraska fans just were like, just don't even bring him to the game. I mean, just like just have him stay home. It's fine.
Just go for it.
Fine. Just go for it.
Just go for it.
Turn it into NCAA 25. I'm just gonna go for 4th and 25 every single time. Doesn't matter.
Well, for him aside too. I mean,
pretty big field goals was awesome.
Massive. I mean, the one at the end of the half was like massive kick. That was a 50-yarder. He had a 50+ yard kick. Like he made every extra point. I mean, how many points did he get? Oh, 14.
He had 14 kicking points. His over under was 5.5 kicking points.
Well, but as we broke this down why did we go with over on that one? Because we thought we'd get 2 field goals. We were saying the under for this because I didn't think we'd have like 3 touchdowns. I just was like, we have not scored more than 21 points all season. And for him to kick 3
or even get into field goal range, which previously field goal range was about 12 yards. And now it's apparently 55.
Which again is why this whole game was so shocking. Which side note of like, if we hadn't kicked 3 field goals, make those all touchdowns, it's a 50-point game. That's crazy. To think if we put up 50 points on.
It was extremely close to being a 50 burger. And
but yeah, I think we legitimately didn't think it was going to score 21. So that's incredibly impressive.
It was. Yeah. Next one, we thought Vinny Anthony. So, I mean, Will Pauling was their wide receiver. He was hurt. Vinny Anthony, I mean, so here's
137.
He had a big game. But he had that 58. He had that 58-yard touchdown. So he was Wisconsin's stud in that game. I would say one disappointing take from the defense there. So the fun fact, I guess, that I did not realize until I watched a couple replays, you know who Vinny Anthony burned deep was Bly Hill.
And Bly Hill also had,
and
he punched that fumble.
Was supposed to be helping. Yeah.
So no, Bly Hill punched out the fumble at the end of the half, which I was like, I didn't even know he was back.
Yeah, I know he kind of snuck into the lineup there all of a sudden. So that was
that's a sneaky
137. Gifford was supposed to be like helping over the top, and he did not. And Gifford, frankly, has had a very up and down year. But Vinny Anthony went way over on that one.
I'm sort of ignoring the fact that they had 300 passing yards and 400 total yards.
It wasn't good.
Positives. But I'm also here's the spin zone is Iowa doesn't have a quarterback. So they're on their third string quarterback. Their top 2 guys are done. And so, like, theoretically, they're not going to be able to do that.
We'll talk about that. Yeah. The next one was Fidone. So we had lower than 25.5 receiving yards and got that right because he got his butt benched.
Yeah, he got benched bad.
Starting. You always wonder how guys are going to take that, like, because I still think one of our most talented players. Has not scored this year, but I think that he is going to, hopefully, like, just use that as another learning experience and stuff and come back positively instead of, like, leave the team. That would be tragic. Next one, Ja'Cory Barney. So we had we nailed that one. He had the higher than 19.5 longest reception.
It was only 21.
Ja'Cory is a talking point, though. What a freaking game!
He was awesome.
I mean, just insane. Like,
I'll say the opening kickoff was one of his best plays.
So he had 150 all-purpose yards. That is
kickoffs.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was his most of the season. Second most was 102 against Purdue. But he had 11 rushing yards, 85 receiving yards, and then his opening kick was a 45-yard return, which led to an easy score for us. I mean, and then he actually returned a punt. For goodness sakes, we're returning things.
He was the highest graded true freshman wide receiver from week 13 in all of college football. 83.4 from PFF. So the highest graded true freshman wide receiver. It's a big time play.
He had his average yards per play between all of his touches was 12.5. So every time he touched the ball, we went 12.5.
Well, but it's some of it too, and it's like how much do you put towards Holgerson of like we always have tried to get Ja'Cory the ball, but it's always been in these weird. It's like, oh, that play's not going to work, and like it seemed like the ones that they were doing and the timing they had was much better. On this one.
Yeah, no, I mean he made some plays happen, but like there were even just some of the things that stood out for him, like other than getting him the ball on those like pitches and the end arounds and whatever. Those are great plays because we need to stretch the field horizontally, but just somewhere it looked so much smoother. Just like Rayola caught the ball on one. We needed a first down. Barney went 1 yard past the sticks and went to the sideline, and it was just an easy pitch and catch. And like those are the things that we've been missing. Is like rhythm throws for Rayola have been very hard to come by, and they're rhythm throws because it requires some sort of rhythm, and he's never gotten into the rhythm to be throwing rhythm throws. And so to see that was awesome. The final one then was Tawi Walker. Of course, we were going to hold him to under 80.5 rush and receiving yards. That was a no doubter.
That's our hope, man. If we can do it again on Friday, it's like we're in.
Yeah,
I was going to run the ball 38 times.
They absolutely are. Yeah. I'm looking forward to the underdog picks this week. Use promo code Huskers to sign up. The ones that we missed were Rayola less than 201.5 passing yards.
I was pumped to not get that one though. It's great.
Yeah, of course. It was awesome. Yeah. I just didn't know that, it was the Big Ten's third best passing defense going into the game. I didn't think this would be the game where he breaks out of his month-long slump. And then Braden Locke, their quarterback, with lower than 188.5 passing yards. Oof. He went for 292. Oof. And then Dowdle, I couldn't believe that, but Dowdle did not have more than 4.5 receiving yards. He didn't dump it off.
Did he have any?
No.
He had 3 touchdowns though, which is crazy.
3 touchdowns, 0 receiving yards.
So, 3 touchdowns on how many yards did he have?
It's the underdog recap of the week there for you.
How many yards did Dowdle have? Because he had 10 carries, 41 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's a day. Because Evan Johnson was basically doing the bulk of the work, 16 carries, 113 yards. He would get it all the way down there. And then Dowdle would just come in and be like, thanks, guys. I got it. I got this. 10 carries, 3 touchdowns. Scored on every third carry. I'll take that. I'll take that all day.
Very, very, very efficient.
Harbor got a touchdown too. I mean, how about it? I haven't really liked that Harbor package. I think it's a weird, anytime they bring him in, it's an automatic run. I feel like teams have caught on until they hope maybe they're saving a pop pass for Iowa, but every time he comes in, it's like, oh, here comes the guy who just runs straight forward. It hasn't worked. It did work.
I do think it is so useful in those goal line.
It's great.
Within the 10-yard line, it's it could be and should be if they executed right, like they finally did against Wisconsin. because everyone thinks it's going to Dowdell. Like every time down there, based on all of our previous film, it has been going to him. And so for him to be able to, zone read somebody and take it wide for once, like it worked.
Yeah. But I think I don't know. I think if you get one Tim Tebow pop pass in there, then
that's good. Iowa's heads are going to be spinning.
Yeah, it's like he literally runs on the field. You imagine everybody on defense like, oh, here comes the guy that just puts his head down and runs straight forward.
He never hands it off.
he has zero moves. He just like here comes that donkey off the sideline that just like puts his head down and just smashes people.
So speaking of, move on to our next one here on Emmett. Yeah, no, I said the stats on Emmett for the last 2 weeks.
Where are you at?
Last year, yeah, that's fine. Last 2 weeks, Emmett Johnson, 26 rushes, 168 yards, 13 catches, 121 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown. Before Holgerson got here, he had 58 rushes total, so just over double that, but in 9 games for 284 yards. He only had 16 catches, so it's 3 more catches through 9 games as opposed to 13 over 2. 16 catches were for 116 yards total. So he passed that in 2 games. And he had 1 total touchdown. And so he has matched that in the last 2 games. I think Holgerson likes Emmett. He likes his flashiness. Yeah. He likes his versatility. And him and then Jacory are getting suddenly a lot more touches. Jacory was coming along already. But it is very nice to see. I just think there's a little bit of it, like you said, like he comes in, he gets off the plane, and he just identifies talent, and he's like, "This is the guy."
Show me football players.
It's one of his best traits, like historically, is just been like get your playmakers the ball and get them a little space to work with, and that's it's it.
Well, I think
that's football in a nutshell.
But that's what's been weird and frustrating about our offense the whole season. You've been like, we have good players. Like Jamal Banks is a great player for Wake Forest, and Nayor is one of the most highly recruited wide receivers, and Barney is an incredibly agile wide receiver. He can get catch in the backfield, and Emmett Johnson is the Minnesota Player of the Year. Like we have players, and so the whole thing was so frustrating to be like, what is going on? We can't score, we can't gain yards, we can't do anything. That like, if you just get these guys the ball in the right situation, the right area, it's like, this makes sense. We have good players. The offensive line is good. We have a good team. It's just like,
it's never been a lack of talent. It's been a lack of development and a lack of execution. Like we had more talent than Illinois. And we had more talent than UCLA. If we didn't execute against USC, we didn't execute against any of these teams. So
totally,
it's the lack of development, and if you're getting top 25 recruiting classes every year, you should be a top 25 team.
Yes, and we're on our way because we might never lose again. But wait, you have more? We got Hull's killing it.
Yeah, John Hull. I just wanted to give him a shout out. He's 20 for 21 on extra points, and he started out 1 for 5 in his career, and he's now 9 for 13. Those were the only 4 that he missed. I mean, the guy is nails now, and I hope it does not end.
Keep it going. It's unbelievable to have that kind of as a resource to be able to like cross midfield, hit the 30, 35, and be like, okay, we can take some shots, and we don't have to go for it on 4th down. That's an unbelievable resource. Scored 9 points.
It changes the dynamic of every game, especially a team like Iowa.
Well, and here's on the flip side, I couldn't believe how poorly Wisconsin has played when they've beat us 10 straight years. They don't ever make these mistakes. The last 3 years we've lost in 1-score games because Wisconsin is just Wisconsin, and they don't screw up, and they don't make special teams mistakes, and they don't have bad penalties, and they just sort of bleed us out and win in the 4th quarter. And I was fully expecting that to happen this time too. I mean, they did it last year. They won in overtime 2 years ago, and each of these games is always like that. But they missed 2 field goals. So the opposite of Hull. They missed 2 field goals. They should have nailed it out at the end of the half, and that turned into a fumble. Blyhill fumble that we picked up. Hull kicks a field goal. It's a massive swing. And then that drive that we talked about, they had the unnecessary roughness, completely unnecessary. That was on a 3rd down play. That extended the drive. They had a roughing the passer on Dylan Rayold that extended the drive. They had a face mask that extended the drive and made it 1st and goal. They were 30 for 10 on third downs and they had 7 penalties for 56 yards. Like all of those things are like that. If you took that, you were like, and you read those stats, missed field goals, fumbles at the end of the half. That is a Nebraska, the last 10-year storyline. Like that is like, I feel like we've done that on the podcast every single week of like, man, if only we just hadn't fumbled at the end of the half, and if only we just didn't have that roughing the passer, and if only we were a little bit better on third down.
Those 14 mistakes, if we just clean up all of 14
if we clean up all of those, but all of them truly, like
good.
That's what was crazy about these was 2 of those penalties were on third down. And this was like the kind of the game sealing touchdown drive for us. That roughing the passer was on third down. That would have been a field goal. That would have kept them in the game. The face mask was on third down. That would have been a field goal. And instead we scored a touchdown and buried them, and then the game is over. But that's the stuff that we do. So I was like, oh, it's such a relief to not be us.
That's so nice. It's so nice. It feels great.
Such a relief.
Great. It must really stink for them, but
yeah. I think about the spiral that they're in with Fickle right now. I was kind of reading some of their message board stuff. Like, they don't know what to do. They just fired their offensive coordinator. They don't know what to do with their defensive coordinator. The defensive coordinator is getting 45 points to a team that's lost 5 games. Like, what? How do you reconcile that? You're in year 2 of Fickle. You're on a 4-game losing streak. Like, I mean, I don't feel bad for Wisconsin at all because they have been so good for the last 15 years. I'm ready for them to have a downturn, but I don't think they thought it would come with Fickle.
Yeah. This was, I guess, one of the final things that I was putting up there just for comparison's sake as well. Tony White had himself an up and down day. Like we had a couple of timely turnovers and stuff, and that was all good to see for sure. There's no doubt about that. No taking that away from him, but giving up 292 passing yards, that was our most on the season against Wisconsin. That was Wisconsin.
It was weird.
And in the past,
it was weird.
In the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, we have not held a team under 65% passing. Actually, at 66.7% passing, we have not held any teams below that for 5 games. So you're looking at 2/3 of passes being completed on you. That's pretty tough. We also have given up 3 touchdowns to 1 interception against Wisconsin, 3 touchdowns to 1 interception against USC, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions against UCLA. And then we gave up 3 and 1 against Ohio State, 3 and 1 against Indiana. It has been since the Rutgers game that we had an even or better touchdown to interception ratio. So we are holding. Yeah. So we've had 4 picks, and then we've had 6, 9, 12, 14 touchdowns. 4 picks to 14 touchdowns allowed in the last 5 games. Passing defense is a concern for me.
We didn't have a sack.
0 sacks for like the first time all season as well against Wisconsin.
I feel like that was the weirdest thing.
3 tackles for loss.
All of it was a little bizarre. It was like he was just dropping back. He had all sorts of time. And then he was like carving us up like he was some good quarterback. It's like, guys, what are we doing here?
Like all of our best stops were against the run, and like Ty Robinson, my God, are we gonna miss him? He was an absolute animal. So those were kind of like my final takeaways. Is we are extremely lucky that Iowa is on. I mean, Iowa's pulling out popcorn concessions kids to play quarterback. They are on their 4th string quarterback who played admirably last game. And so, we can get into that too. But holy cow, like we're lucky we're not playing some sort of like air raid Wisconsin or Iowa offense coming up, because this pass defense has looked suspect for about 5 games now.
Not great.
Not great. So if we're moving on to our offense as well. So the reason I threw this one in here. So I'm highlighting our average yards per carry as you go through quarters of a game is pretty interesting to look at. This is what has like crushed us all year. And against Wisconsin, it finally did not. But it's going to absolutely be a huge key to the game against Iowa for like, you can absolutely guarantee it. So if you look at the attempts, it's pretty even. 82 first quarter rushing attempts, 88 second quarter, 96 third quarter, and 103 in the fourth quarter. But our average yards per carry is 4.3 yards per carry in the first quarter, 4.2 yards per carry in the second quarter, 4.7 yards per carry in the third quarter, and 2.65 yards per carry in the fourth quarter. It does.
So it goes 4, 4, 4, then 2 for those not watching the screen. That's not great. You don't like that.
Not great. 4, 4, 4, and 2. So
I feel like we ran the ball better in the fourth quarter against Wisconsin, though. Did we not?
Exactly. And so that was like one thing that I kind of like looking and taking from the game. Like I felt like we balanced it out pretty well, and we had that drive that was like over 4 minutes, starting right around like 8.5 minutes left, and we were finally able to kind of control the clock and run the ball out. Like you're not going to kill the clock if you're running 2.6 yards per carry. Like you're going to turn it right back over to them. So that was pretty awesome to see for us.
Yeah, good.
On to the next one. Let's talk about where Iowa's going to get beat. Because are you feeling good? What's your vibe overall before I dive into my nerdy numbers?
On Iowa?
Yep.
I mean, after this game, I'm way back compared to where I was. I mean, I think with an offense, I don't know. I keep coming back to the macro look at like if that Colorado team had just shown up for one more game, we would be awesome. And like that Colorado team was really the Colorado game was really only a first half team, and now we finally have 4 quarters of like a good offense. I feel good. I feel great in that instance. I feel good knowing Iowa is basically on their third string quarterback. I am nervous at their defense because their defense is always so good.
Defense is fantastic, and I'm nervous that Vegas has them favored
by a lot.
Yeah, it's like as low as maybe 3.5.
Yeah, it kind of moved up. It moved up to like 5 today.
Now it's like 5.5. So the public is saying, this Wisconsin was just
the public's doing the Lee Coast. They're doing that not so fast, my friend.
Yeah, they absolutely are. So. I mean, the ways that Iowa's been beaten this year, and this is just me diving into just Iowa's numbers, being a complete nerd about it, but there are 3 instances the entire year where they have given up more than 5 yards per carry. All 3 of those were losses. And that right away, jumps off the page. So Ohio State went for 5.08 yards per carry. Michigan State went for 5.3 yards per carry. Michigan State ran the ball 40 times on Iowa for 212 yards. And then UCLA, who is a bottom 3 rushing offense, they're actually bottom 1 when they played us. UCLA went 39 rushes for 211 yards at 5.41 yards per carry. That's their highest of the season. Those are the reassuring things. The only other loss that they had was Iowa State. They did give up 3.18 yards per carry, but that was more in line with what they've done the rest of the year. The fact that those 3 teams, and 2 of them are not elite rushing offenses by any means, Michigan State and UCLA going for 212 and 211 yards on you, it tells me there's some soft spots. Right? There's got to be, if they can do it, it's not an accident. When it's 40 carries, that rate, it's not an accident. They're finding something. And so I am seeing that, that's reassuring to me in some way that has been the case, I guess, for them in the past.
It's definitely, this is not the Iowa of last year. This is not the 10-win team. This is not the 9 to 10-win teams of old. This is crazy. They're 7-4. If we win, we're both 7-5 and and we both arrived at that 7-5 in very different ways. We're
vastly different ways.
Yeah, the fact that we would land there with a Wisconsin, Iowa, Colorado win, but a loss to Indiana, Illinois, and UCLA. I guess we both would have lost UCLA, but.
So if you flip to the next here, this is where things start to get maybe a little bit concerning. So concerning and not so concerning for kind of the same reason. So they're one of the best rushing teams in the country. And that sucks to say because it's Iowa and I don't like saying positive things about them. But Caleb Johnson is an absolute monster.
He's very good.
An absolute monster. So the things that if you look at their trends on their rushing offense, they're across the board have been better at rushing the ball than us. However, our defense, if you had to pick a strength, it's going to be like we mentioned, it's going to be against the run. It is not against the pass. Like, you just watched what Wisconsin did to us through the air, and you've watched the last 5 weeks what other teams have done to us through the air. Iowa should not be a threat through the air. Like a pass for them is basically a trick play. They ran the ball 58 times. They ran the ball 58 times against Maryland. And they're going to do the exact same this week. But I'd like to think that with Nash and Ty and Jamari and like a pretty stout linebacking core, that we can probably hold that in check a little bit more. But just looking at their rushing totals, I mean, it's outrageous. 58 times against Maryland, 31, 54 against Wisconsin. They went for 329 on Wisconsin. 39 times against Northwestern. They went for 200 there as well. They have more 200-yard games this year than we have over the last, I believe, 3 seasons combined, which is insane.
Crazy. It's crazy. So, they just have not been able to find a quarterback in the last 10 seasons. It's like, but who needs one when you got a Caleb Johnson back there? Kid Moulton can play too. They both had 100 yards last game.
Well, the other thing that you can pull out of this data a little bit is in their 7 wins, they have 22 rushing touchdowns. In their 4 losses, they have 7 rushing touchdowns. And so, they are so dependent on that. The other part of things, here's getting into the micro. First half rushing touchdowns for Iowa. So they have 29 total. First half rushing touchdowns, they have 9. Second half rushing touchdowns, they have 20.
Whoa.
20 rushing touchdowns is more than Nebraska has. We have 19 on the season. Iowa has 20 second half rushing touchdowns. And then the final thing, I mentioned our trend of getting a little worse as the game goes on, averaging 2.6 yards per carry in the fourth quarter. Iowa goes 4.6 yards per carry in the first quarter on the season, 4.8 yards per carry in the second quarter, 5.7 and 6.14 yards per carry in the fourth quarter. So they're averaging over 6 yards per carry in the fourth quarter. They are going to run it and then run it and run it some more. Their yards per carry gets better with each quarter as the game goes on. They just want to wear you down. And this is classic Kirk Ferentz. And he, honestly, I think a little part of Kirk is you know what? I'm kind of happy that our quarterback's out of the equation, because now
we just run an Iowa offense.
Every excuse in the world to never pass the rest of the season. He's like, guess what? I'm off the hook. Let's run it 70 times.
Yeah, up the middle. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think their defense concerns me. Their offense, you just hope that they can step up. I mean, the games that we've gotten torched, the Indiana game, the Illinois game, Ohio State to an extent, and then where we had issues against Wisconsin, is all these mid-range pass and then deep ball. And if they can't do either of those things, I don't know. It's we match up a little bit better than them that way. I think they aren't battling as many season-ending injuries as Wisconsin was, which is kind of a bummer. Obviously, we hope the kids are healthy because they're kids. At the end of the day, they're student athletes. But theoretically, if more Iowa players,
athlete second,
if more Iowa players wanted to opt out by Friday to prepare for the draft, who's that kid that they're starting quarterback already opted out?
They're
maybe more of them would want to do that. That'd be great. I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Yeah. I think Jay Higgins. I think his draft stock would go up if he sat this game out. So
I think all of them would just take a break.
I think you should really listen to that piece of advice from some concerned friends. So these are the final comparisons.
Yeah. What do we got?
Yeah, last little bit here. So this is just a head-to-head comparison. This was found on Husker Max. I can't take full credit for them, but just looking head-to-head comparison between the stats and who's doing better where. So there are some interesting things here that you maybe wouldn't expect. So on the defensive side of the ball, tackles per loss, Nebraska averaging is at 5.9. Iowa's at 4.5, so we got a little advantage there. Sacks, averaging more sacks per game as well. Sacks allowed, they are much better, though. Third down conversion, they are better. Third down defense, they are better. Fourth down conversion, they are better. Rushing offense, they are better. Scoring offense, Iowa is at 29.4. They're better than us for the first time.
Yeah, but that was the old Holgerson. That's like a pre-Holgerson stat.
In an eternity. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And then total defense and scoring defense, they are better. Things that we have to take some reassurance in looking at this is passing offense, passing efficiency, total offense. We get the nudge there, and then rushing defense, we actually get the nudge. The reason that that's so important is because if you're looking at their weaknesses, it's probably through the air, and especially being down their best cornerback, best coverage corner. We do have the quarterback advantage. I can very confidently say that we have a better quarterback than it's like Jackson Stratton. It definitely sounds like a small town Iowa kid that they literally just signed last week to a $400 NIL deal and 30 free hot dogs. We have a better quarterback. We have a better, more balanced offense, and our defense is built to stop the only true threat that they pose on offense, which is Caleb Johnson 58 times per game like they did against Maryland. Those are the keys. Okay. That's where we're going to beat them. And that is, I'm like sticking to that. Like, we are built better to beat them than they are to beat us. Now, would I be shocked if we lose? Probably not. But do I think that, like, pretty confidently we have more advantages over them than they have over us? I would say yeah.
Yeah, I've shifted to irrationally confident back from
I love that side of you.
From I don't think we're ever going to win another game in the history of Nebraska football to I don't see how we lose to a 7-4 very average Iowa football team without a quarterback with only a running back.
Here's another bomb that's going to get you. Here's another stat bomb that's going to get you really going here. Guess who is second to last in the conference in pass plays allowed of over 50 yards, 50 or more yards?
Is that?
It's the opponent we're playing.
I was going to say, do you want me to really guess?
It's Iowa. Iowa's given up 4 pass plays of 50 or more yards. That is 16th in the Big, or tied for 16th in the Big Ten.
Good. Throw it deep.
Okay. Now guess who is leading the conference in pass plays allowed of 60 or more yards?
Is it us?
It's Iowa. 3.
So 60 or more. Jeez Louise. I was going to say, we've only given up 1 or 2 of those.
60 or more. Guess who's also leading the conference in pass plays allowed of 70 or more yards?
How many have they given up?
Just 1 of 70 or more yards. But it's Iowa. Some of those get double counted and stuff there. But still, it's pretty marginal because we've also allowed 2 pass plays of 40 or more yards. We've given up 7 of 40 or more. We have given up only 2 of 50 or more. Iowa's given up 4 of 50 or more. So that gets me excited because how long have you been waiting for the Jalen Lloyd bomb?
All season. I guess he was the only surprise that didn't show up last week. I thought since he showed spark against USC, I thought he would have. Now that you bring his name up, he didn't have a catch.
Nope, sure did not. Yeah. But you know who did have a lot of catches? Ja'Cory Barney.
Ja'Cory Barney's a stud.
And you know who wants to go deep? Ja'Cory Barney.
Yeah. Cook bombs away. Before we hit these last point, a lot of people are asking in the comments, where do we get these TO hat? I want to make sure you guys know. We officially have them live on HuskGuyStore.com. We can buy them single. We can buy them part of gift boxes. We've made a ton of cool gift boxes for Dad, for Husker fans of the 90s, fans of golf, fans of all sorts of different Huskers combinations. So we're excited about that. So check out HuskGuyStore.com. But also, throw the deep ball to Lloyd. My final point was around I was watching football this weekend. Tweeted this out today how I was sort of struck by how old all the quarterbacks were of the top teams. And so Oregon's starting Dylan Gabriel. He's a 6th-year senior, which is crazy. You can play football for 6 years for 3 separate schools. Ohio State's got a 5th-year senior in Will Howard. He's started 5 straight seasons. Texas is starting a 3-year starter in Ewers. Penn State's starting a junior in Drew Aller. Notre Dame's got Riley Leonard, the transfer. He's a senior. Georgia's got Carson Beck. He's a senior. And Miami's got a 5th-year senior in Ward. So the top 7 have these 4th, 5th, or 6th-year seniors all playing. I'm a firm believer in like the development that can occur over the course of a 4-year, 5-year career when you go from like 18 to 20 to 22. Like you go from, a wide-eyed recruit to a grown man that like for however long we get Dylan, that to me is very exciting to think about now that he's come back out of the slump and we saw the Dylan that we saw in the first 5 games, the first 6 games of the season, the like cool, calm, relaxed, poised, mature, like gunslinger with Holgerson behind him. Give them 1 to 2 more years. To me, he'll be on this level, right? He's not there yet because I think he's young. And a lot of these guys, like they've all started 4 or 5 years. Think how much better Cam Ward is than when he started his career. How much better Dylan Gabriel was.
He started at Incarnate Word.
Incarnate Word. I mean, the development that happens in a college career with 5 years of weightlifting and eating and nutrition and coaching, and I'd like to think Rayl's going to stick around. He's at the state championship game right now with Rule, watching Westside. Like he'd like to think a kid who's, kind of stick around, who's going to high school football games and recruiting.
One would think.
So one would think. Sense. A lot of positive signs. But let's close this out. Let's talk bowl games.
I love it.
This is fun because we never get to talk bowl games, and we haven't been able to talk bowl games in
a long time,
10,000 years.
Since before,
a lot of fun ones.
Since before our 7 kids combined were born.
Correct, 7 kids combined, and in year 4 or 5 of like the entire Huskers getting started. So a lot of fun options. What are your favorite ones?
I think Music City, and then Citrus feels like a stretch, but I've seen a couple suggestions of Music City versus Oklahoma, and that could be fun. That could be fun.
I mean,
that's really an awesome one. And then I will say, I got a soft spot for the Duke's Mayo Bowl and dumping some mayo on Matt Rule.
That's
one of the great traditions in all of athletics.
Is that Charlotte?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what's crazy is I've paid so little attention to bowls because we just never make it. And the fact that like the playoff is completely like flipping this thing where it's flipped everything. And it didn't like dawn on me until I was looking at the options. Like, how can there still be so many options? Like literally last year, if we had won our 6th game, they would have been like, here's your 2 choices. You're either going to go to the Big Ten's 4th place bowl or the 5th place bowl or whatever, right? Like it would have just been like, here's your option. But the fact that we may or may not get 5 Big Ten teams into the playoff or 4 teams into the playoff, like dramatically alters every other bowl from throughout. And then the same with the SEC. Like if they don't get that many teams in, and like everybody's team, like not getting the teams in, all these bowls are getting like. So I've seen us playing everyone from Oklahoma to Texas Tech to Alabama. Like the best case scenario bowl is Alabama. Alabama gets knocked out of the playoff, and they play in like the whatever the bowl right after, or they could or if if they lose next week, it'd be Alabama, Nebraska. But hear about this though.
Okay, that's a lot to think about.
The other crazy thing, though, is all of these teams, think about the opt-outs that now occur at bowls that hopefully, theoretically, won't happen for us.
True.
Right? So, like, think about an Oklahoma or an Alabama or an Ole Miss.
Like they just have
if they have their whole roster opt-out because they're all NFL
players. Want to see, like, Florida State style, just like the first 2 strings are like, I'm out. I'm good.
They all opt out because they're all going to the NFL. They're like, why would I play Nebraska in the Duke's Mayo Bowl when I could go to the NFL? They don't want to play in that game. Their season's over. They didn't make the playoff. They don't care. They quit. And then you have like this 35-0 win over like Alabama's 4th string.
Yes.
Imagine
I don't care.
The offseason.
I want to play. I just want to play and win a bowl game so bad. But yes, being able to say we want Bama and
and beating them. Or I mean,
But
even
specifically, we want Bama's third string.
Oklahoma would be fun. Alabama would be fun. I mean, there's a
Ole
bunch
Miss,
of those.
I've heard Ole Miss thrown around too.
Ole Miss made me nervous though, because like Lane Kiffin could
Of course.
put up like he could put up like 56 on his.
Of course. I mean, they all make me nervous, but I think like the hype is still there. You get to play a different team. You get to like show
imagine the disappointment of any of these guys. If it's like Ole Miss, if you're like right on the cusp of like making the playoff, and they're like, "Congratulations, you're playing."
Yeah. It's going to be that's the thing that I think some people don't realize is like everyone's like, oh, we're going to play on like December 18th. No way. Like, but these bowl games, Nebraska fans, there's going to be 40,000 Nebraska fans going to this game. They're going to be like, how do I get Nebraska? Like they literally, we haven't been
bowl
in 8
games
years.
Well, that's the thing.
Was, like if this was a yearly thing
Illinois,
for us, it would be a different story. It's totally different
Illinois
than if you go every year versus if you go once a decade.
I think it depends on the location. I think if you get,
I don't think it does. I think we are definitely getting 20 to 30,000 people at whatever stadium is.
Well, I just think if you get Phoenix, like you'll get 40,000. If you get Music City, you'll get 40,000. Sure. If you get Detroit, you're like, do I want to go to Detroit?
I mean, you ever been to Detroit over Christmas? It's.
I just think if you get Orlando, people are going to go nuts. It's like, yeah, that's exactly where I'm going to go. Especially since a lot of these bowl games they're actually at pretty good dates. They're like December 28th. It's not like December 10th anymore. It's like these are like New Year's bowl games. It's crazy.
Yeah. And like
it's fun to talk bowl games. That's fun. I like bowl games. Yep. I like winning games. All right, folks. As always, we are grateful to you guys for listening. I want to make sure we say that. Samuel hit us with a GBR. We appreciate that. We had our meeting with Herdat today. We are climbing the ranks of one of the fastest growing podcasts. Appreciate you guys listening. We get a few thousand, 2,000 to 3,000 listeners every single week, and we really appreciate you guys listening. We're trying to get up to that 4,000 or 5,000. Apparently, that's what they said is when you really start to crack into like the upper level. But we're pumped with the way we're at. Yeah, we're in year 2. Make sure you check out HuskGuysStore.com, pipeline-jerky.com, and Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code HuskGuys. A lot of good stuff. Get the hats, the shirts, the jerky, and we're going bowling. So have fun.
Unbelievable.
Go Big Red, folks.
Unbelievable.